Yes, and good morning, friends. Today, we are going to see the session that is yesterday. We have seen introduction to artificial intelligence, the descriptive statistics part we have seen. Today, we are going to see inferential statistics, the day two. Oh, that is here. Or inferential statistics we are going to see, and tomorrow we'll be seeing probability distribution. And so first 3 days we have planned statistics. From day 4 to 14 we have planned Python. On From day 15 to day 29 we have planned machine learning. And from day 30 to day 40 we have planned deep learning. And day 41 on day 41, 42, we have planned natural language processing. And day 43 to 50, we have planned and that is reinforcement learning. This is what our plan for the 50-day program. Today, no, yesterday's session, we have loaded in WhatsApp. Sorry, we have loaded in on YouTube, so you can have a look at it. Like you can just go to bigdatahandson.com in our YouTube channel, bigdatahandson.com. You can also subscribe it, and you can see those videos which we have posted. So this is the yesterday's video. Bigdatahandson.com. Latest from bigdatahandson.com is this. And yesterday session, this is the session, introduction to artificial intelligence. And like you can also give like, or you can also give dislike as well. If you are providing dislike, no, you can provide your comments as well. So this is the yesterday's video. You can subscribe to our channel and you can see that. And also you can have our services, like you can go to Google. You can go to our website bigdatahandson.com, and you can see our videos here as well. It will take some time to get loaded. So before that, like you can go to home and you can see the about us part. You can check out our phone number, our mail ID, our alternative phone number, and email ID is here. Or so if you want to join in our WhatsApp group, no, you can and you can message us using WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp number is that. And if you want to know about us, you can read about us here. So now we shall go for the session. The session is uh, like it is the second part of that is the after inferential statistics, that is descriptive statistics. We are going to see inferential statistics today. Um, Now Irfan, no, shall continue the session. Thank you.
Okay, good morning all. So today uh, we'll start from the yesterday's part, the summarization data. So that's the part remaining. So summarization, the data means it contains like I will show you that, right. So it's not changing. Yeah. So in the descriptive statistics, we know that we are describing the data. So the one part is the summarization data. So summarizing data means we'll calculate some central tendency. So the central value. So to calculate the central values, we have mean, median, mode, and the variation on the data set. So we can calculate with the range or interquartile range, variance, and standard deviation. This all we'll see in the summarizing data. So the mean, we all know in the high schools we are studied. So the it's called the average calculation. No, so what we'll do, we'll add up the all the values and divide by the number of values. So that very simple one. So the mean. So that denote by the y bar. Y bar equal to the all the y values we will add up, and then we'll subtract by the number of elements. So that would be our mean. So the formula will be summation of yi divided by n. Okay. And for example, here she has shown a class A IQs of 13 students. So to calculate the mean, what we'll do, we'll add up all these values. That would be the summation of 1437. So how many students are there? 13. So we divide the value by the 13, and we'll getting 110.54. So that would be the average IQ of this class A. Okay, for class B, the average IQ is 110.23. So the mean values, why we are using is, we are calculating the middle value. So if you see here, here are like 7 values, and here are maybe 6 values. So the middle value comes here, like 110. No, so we are calculating the central tendency of this data set. Okay, so that's what the mean is about. Mean and median mode, and these three all is about calculating the mean value. So but the mean value here, wait, I will show you one thing. uh, and in the mean median mode will different from the distribution. I will show you that later on the slides. So then we have median. No, median means the middle value. So itself, here in the mean we are adding up all the values and subtracting by the number of elements. No, so but the median is just calculating the middle value. So what we'll do, we will sort the data set into the ascending order, and then we'll pick up the central value. That means here we have 7 values, I think. Yeah, 6 values. So in the up we have 6 values, and the down we have 6 values. We ignore these six values, and we can get the middle value. So that is 109. Okay, so that means 50% above and 50% below cases, we are getting the central value, that is 109. Okay, that will be the median value here. Okay, so as you can see here, the median comes 109, but the mean comes, what comes, 110.54. So in the class ES IQs here. Okay, okay. So if you have the data set even numbers, so if you have odd numbers, we can just separate 50% above, 50% below. But if you have even number of cases, what we'll do, so we'll take the middle two values. Means if you have even number of cases, we'll get two middle values. No, so what we'll do, we'll add up these two values and subtract by the 2. So we will get 109.5. This would be the even number of cases. When you have even number of cases, we'll do like this. So we'll take the middle two values and add up these values and divide by the 2. So that would be 109.5. Okay, so the same 6 cases above and 6 cases below. Okay, and to explain the variation between the mean and median, so we have skewness. So to understand the skewness, I will just open the paint. So we have two things. One is skewness and another one is kurtosis. So I will explain this. So if you have, let's say this is the normal distribution. Okay, so now the skewness will be uh, we have three type of skewness. One is the normal skewness, this will be the normal distribution. And we have positive skewness. Positive skewness means the top of this distribution, no, will move on to the right. That would be positive skewness. If the top of the distribution will move on to the left, that would be negative skewness. Okay, so we have normal skewness and positive skewness, negative, sorry, I think this will be negative and this will be positive, I think. So we have three type of skewness. So the skewness is moving on right or left, but the kurtosis will move on. Let's say this is a normal distribution. Here we will compare with the normal distribution, and we have three type of kurtosis. Okay, okay, the skewness is moving right or left. Okay, but the kurtosis will move up or down. Okay, so understand. So the kurtosis, we have three types. Mesocortic. Mesocortic is like it will be steep one. Okay, so it will go steep one. So this would be mesocortic. And the normal distribution we have, no, this would be leptocortic. And another type we have the flat one, flat distribution, that would be platycortic. So we have three type of kurtosis: mesocortic, leptocortic, and platycortic. And skewness we have normal and positive and negative skewness. Okay, so why I'm telling this is because uh, when I'm explaining the mean median mode, you can understand. Means if you have a skewness, we don't know that, no, what is skewness. So the skewness occurs because of the outliers. So it calls the Bill Gates outliers. So it's because let's say our values are increasing by 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and suddenly you are facing a large value 50. So that will be the outlier. 50 will be the outlier. So because of this, uh, the mean will be affected, but the median will not affect. That's what the point I'm trying to tell you. So if you see here, so we have this outlier. Because of this outlier, our distribution is skewed one. Okay, so the skewed one, our mean is affecting. So middle value is here. So we know that we have this middle value here, something here. So the median is not affecting, but the mean is affecting because of the outlier. Okay, mean will affect. Okay, so the median is unaffected by the outliers, making it better measure of central tendency, better describing the typical person. That the mean when data are skewed. So the data skewed, also the median will be the same as the middle one. Okay, so it will mean it will not be affected. If the recorded values for a variable from a symmetric distribution, the median and mean are identical. So in the normal distribution, no, that's called a symmetric distribution. So in the symmetric distribution, the mean median will not affect. So it will be the same position in the central value. But in the skewed one, the mean will affect and mean will move on to the right or left if the skewed one is negative one. Okay, and the median will remaining the same in the central value. Okay, okay, so another one we have mode for calculating the central tendency. So mode will be the most common data point. It's called the mode. Most common data point in a sense, will calculate the occurrences of the values. Okay, so if you have 80, we'll calculate the how many 80s are there, like that. So if you have a 93, how many 93s are there? Two 93s are there. Okay, so like that we'll calculate for all the values, and we get 109, because 109 occurs three times. So that would be the uh, highest time the value is occurring. So we'll take 109 as our mode. Okay, and one another possible is we cannot have sometimes we'll have unique values. That time we don't have mode. Okay, so that means all the values have the same same occurrences like 111, then there is no mode. And another chance we will get, like we can get two modes at the same time. Okay, two modes we can get, because for example, let's say in the 93 is occurring two times and 109 is occurring two times, no, then we'll get two modes, 93 and 109. Okay, it is possible to have two modes also. And for describing the mode in the distribution, so the mode is here. So in the symmetric data set, the mode will be mean, median mode. The three central tendency values will be the in the central values, but in the skewed one, mode will be on left. Okay, here you can see mode, then median, and then mean is coming. Okay, so it may give you the most likely experience rather than the typical or central experience. Okay, its symmetric distribution, the mean, median, mode are the same. In the skewed data, the mean and median lie further toward the skew than the mode. Okay, so mode will come first, and then the mean, median, and mode mean. Okay, so this was is about calculating the central tendencies, mean, median, mode. So I will explain you the code. So to calculate the mean, I just create a function for mean. So in there, what I will do, let's say we have this list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I will add up all the values. So sum will help you to add the values, and after adding the values, what we'll do, I will subtract by the number of elements. So len will help you to calculate the number of elements, len of this array. Okay, so and then it will return the mean. Or else if you like without using this function also, we can do using the data itself. So data dot mean, if you calculate it, the pandas data frame will calculate the mean for all the variables, so all the columns. Let's say the passenger id survived already. We know that we already seen this data set yesterday. So the same data set we are using now also, the Titanic data set. And we can easily calculate the mean for all uh, variables. The same way the median also. So data dot median, so it will give you the median values, or else it will give you the mean values or median values. Okay, to calculate the median value from the scratch, it will be like this, because in two lines we have. So first we are sorting the array, and then seeing if that is a even number of cases or odd number of cases. If that is even number of cases, what we'll do, we will add up the central two values and then divide by 2. So this will be done when uh, the number of cases are even. Okay, so if the cases are odd, we can just select the middle value, so we know that, right? So this is about median. So you can calculate the median function. So just calling the median function, we can use this. So if you have a even number of cases, here I have shown the example. So okay, so what we'll do, we'll add up these 3 and 4, 7 divided by 2 will be 3.5. The result is correct. Okay, okay, to calculate the mode, I have written this function. Okay, so this function will count occurrences of the values. So like this, so 80 occurred one times, 87 occurred 109 occurred 3 times, 131 occurs 2 times. Like this, it will calculate the count, and then it will pick most likely values, like that is 3, no. So that is the larger value here. So the value is 109. Okay, so like that it will work the mode, and we can calculate the mode as well. Okay, so this is what is about central tendency values. Now we'll go to the variation on the data set. So to calculate the variation on the data set, we have four methods: range, interquartile range, variance, and standard deviation. So first we will see the range. Range will be the spread of the data, how our data is spreaded the distance of the spreadness. Like let's say the data set we have used the class A IQs. So the minimum value is 89 and the larger value is 140. To calculate the range, what we'll do, we will subtract these two values. So the high range minus the lowest value, the low range. Okay, so that would be the distance of our spread. So distance of our data set 51. Okay, so it says the spread or distance, or the distance between the lowest and highest values of the variable. To get the range for a variable, you subtract its lowest value from its highest value. That's it. Very simple one, the range. So we are just subtracting the highest value with the lowest value on the variable. Okay. So the range of the class A is 51. The range of the class B is 82. So in the code, it will very simple to calculate the range. That is simple, like max minus minimum. That's it. Okay. So we are taking the maximum value of the list and the minimum value of the list and subtracting it both. Okay. So we'll get the range. Okay. So the range of the age on the Titanic data set, that is 79.58. Okay. And one more thing I just forgot that, like to calculate the skewness on is also we can do. So we know that what is skewness, left or right moved on. If that is positive values, it is moved on the positive skewness. If that is negative values, that is negative skewness. So we can calculate very easily, like data dot skew. It will give you the skewness for all the variables. So passenger ID, if you observe, it is getting zero is because in passenger ID all the values are unique use. Okay, so that will be the normal distribution will come. So other are positive, getting positive or negative. Okay, and kurtosis as well. We can calculate data dot kurtosis, very simple one. Or else for kurtosis, calculating the kurtosis, we can use this sci-fi library also. Sci-fi dot stats import kurtosis. This kurtosis function uh, will help you to calculate the kurtosis as well. So here you can see the result is same as this pandas data frame and the stats library. Okay, now we'll move on to the next one. Okay, interquartile range. So interquartile range a little bit different from the range is because we are separating it into three parts. That is first quartile, second quartile, third quartile. Okay, it's called first, second, third. So or else we can say like this: 25th percentile, 50th percentile, or 75th percentile. Okay, so it is very simple to calculate. So that means we have, let's say, 0 to 1000 values. We'll first divide into two parts. So the data set are divided into two parts. Okay, so using the median. Okay, so this is the median 500. So we are dividing into two parts. Okay, so in the first part again we are dividing into two parts. Okay, that would be our 25th percentile. So here 250 is our 25th percentile. So on the other hand, we have a second part of this data set. In the second part of this data set, we are dividing it again into two parts. That would be our 75th percentile. Okay. So why we are using this is because uh, using this interquartile range also you can identify the skewness also. I will tell you, like uh, let's say the 75th percentile is moved on to the left side. Okay. Okay, I think we have another graph for that box plot. So in that it will be very clear YouTube. Okay, so we'll see that later. Okay, so it says a quartile is a value that marks one of the divisions that breaks a series of values into four equal parts. The median is a quartile and divides the cases in half. So we have, after dividing it, we have four parts. No, that's what it is saying. And 25th percentage is a quartile that divides the first 1 by 4 of cases from the later 3 by 4 of cases. So this part we are separating it from the this part. So the 3 by 4 parts are divided from the 1 by 4 part. So that's what it is, 25th percentile. And the 75th percentile is a quartile that divides the first 3 by 4 of cases from the later 1 by 4. Okay. The interquartile range is the distance or a range between the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. Below, what is the interquartile range? Wait, I will tell you. So to calculate the interquartile range, it is very simple. We need to subtract the third quartile with second quartile. We know that the range, the high value minus the low value. So that's what it is. So we are subtracting the 75th percentile and the 50th percentile. We'll get the interquartile range. Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to the next one, the variance. So the variance will tell you the spread of the data. So a measure of the spread of the recorded values on a variable, a measure of dispersion. The larger the variance, the further the individual cases are from the mean. Okay, so here in this distribution, the middle value, let's say the mean. So how far the values are from the mean. So the data cases, individual cases are from the mean, how far it is goes. So to calculate this, so to know that, we use the variance. So if the variance is large, then the data set, it says like the further the individual cases are from the mean. Okay, so the larger the variance. Okay, when the larger the variance, the individual cases are far from the mean. So if you have smaller variance, the closer the individual scores are to the mean. Okay, the closer the mean, it will be uh, like this. Okay, so to calculate the mean, sorry, the variance, we use the formula that is yi minus y bar divided by n. So that is the, okay, sorry, y minus y bar whole squared. So I will tell you why we are putting whole square. So before that, we'll see yi minus y bar. So to calculate, we need to calculate the y bar now first. Starts with the deviation. A deviation is the distance away from the mean of cases. That means yi is our individual cases and y bar is our mean. So why we are subtracting with the mean is because to calculate the distance away from the mean. So that's why the part is y minus y bar. Okay. First we know we need to calculate the y bar. So here we are calculating the y bar, and then what we are doing, we are subtracting each individual cases to the uh, y bar. Okay, so then would be the calculating the deviation. And now what we are doing, a deviation squared. So we are squaring the deviation. Why we are squaring the deviation? Okay, so why we are squaring the deviation is, let's say in this data set, if you see, okay, so the y bar is 110.54. Okay, we are subtracting all the values with the y bar. So here, below the mean we are getting minus, above the mean we are getting plus. Okay, so the minus plus, what will happen, we are adding up all the values. So in the equation itself, it will say summation of the deviation. So we are adding all the deviations. So if you have minus values and plus values, minus values on the left, plus values on the right, what will happen, it will end up with 0. Okay, if you do not square the values, that will give you the variance will be 0. So to overcome that, we are squaring it, because if you square the value, the minus will become plus, no. So that's why we are squaring the value here. uh, we are getting minus 1, so if you square, we'll get plus value. Okay, so after that, we'll add up all the values, summation of yi minus y bar whole squared. So that's it. Okay, so this step we are just adding up all the deviations squares. Okay, after uh, adding up the deviation squares, what we are doing, we are subtracting by the n value. So if you are calculating the variance for population data, we need to subtract with n. If you are calculating for the sample data, that will be n minus 1. Okay, so the final equation will be summation of y minus y bar whole square divided by n minus 1. So the code is here. So for the variance, so what we are doing, we are calculating the mean, that is y bar, and subtracting by the individual cases, that is I minus y bar. Okay, and squaring on for all the individual cases, and summation the values, the deviations, square deviations, and then we are subtracting by the n. Okay, so that would be our variance. Okay, we are calculating the variance for the age variable on the data set. Okay, okay, so and standard deviation. Okay, usually in the variance we'll get the large values, we'll get large values. So to understand, to convert variance into something of meaning, what we'll do, we'll square the square root the variance. So that would be the standard deviation. That's it, very simple one. Just squaring the variation will get standard deviation. Square root of the variance reveals the average deviation of the observation from the mean. Okay, for a class A, the standard deviation is, so we already calculated the variance 235 for 0.45 for the class A variance, and squaring on will get 15.34. The average of percent deviation from the mean IQ is uh, 15.34. Okay, that means averagely on the individual cases, from the mean, you are deviating from the mean, the values is, average value is 15.34. Okay, so the standard deviation also, if you change the values, the same, the standard deviation also will change. Okay, a larger standard deviation means variation around the greater number of variation around the mean, we know that. So the same, for large standard deviation value, that means our data set is like this. If you have a larger standard deviation, our data sets are moving far to the mean. Okay, and standard deviation 0 only when all values are same, only when you have constant and not a variable. Okay, and if you were to rescale a variable, the standard deviation would change by the same magnitude. If you change the above units 250, then the same magnitude, the standard deviation also will increase. It will increase by the 60. Okay, so on the right hand also the same way. Like the mean, the standard deviation will be inflated by an outlier case values. So the standard deviation also affected by the uh, outliers. Okay, so to calculate the standard deviation is very simple, just we are square root of the variance, that's it. Okay, square root of the variance, that would be standard deviation. And the last one, we have the box plot. I already tell you that the box plot will help you to find the quartiles, interquartiles, and it helps you to find the outliers and mean, median, range, outliers. All these values you can see in one plot. So here, so above the part is 25th percentile, and the dark one, dark line is the 50th percentile, and below this one is 75th percentile. Okay, so you can just easily calculate the interquartile range. You can calculate, no? Okay, so there is no outliers here, but in this example you can see these outliers. So these are these outliers, the black points, no, these are outliers. Okay, so to create the box plot, it's very simple. SNS dot box plot, that's it. And we will give the column, that is age column, we know, and the data. Okay, for the far for column the box plot is like this. Okay, so here I have put some calculations uh, to calculate the interquartile range, and using the interquartile range we can also calculate the outliers, how the box plot is calculated these outliers. Okay, so so to calculate the outlier, first we need to calculate the interquartile range. So we know that first we'll get the first quartile and third quartile, we'll subtract these two values, then we'll get interquartile range, that is 20. Okay, so now there is a rule like so q1 minus 1.5 into iqr, this would be the lowest value. Okay, so above this value only are considered the datas. Below this value are considered outliers. And the same way for the Q3 third quartile, Q3 plus 1.5 into IQR. So it gives you 54. So it means above the 54 values, above the 54 values are the outliers. Okay. Here in this data set we don't have any 54 above the 54, but below 26 we have one value minus 30. So that means the 30 minus 30 is one outlier. Okay. Okay, so this is the all about descriptive statistics we completed. Now we'll move into the inferential statistics. Okay, wait. Okay, so now we are going to see inferential statistics. Okay, so in the inferential statistics, till now we are just described the data using the descriptive statistics, and in the inferential statistics what we'll do, we'll try to infer the uh, population data using the sample data. So I will explain it to you. And in the inferential statistics we do some testing, this is called hypothesis testings. Okay, and we'll do some predictions also. All this comes under inferential statistics. Okay, to understand the inferential statistics, inferential statistics make inferences and predictions about a population data based on a sample of data. So we are not going to use the population data. Uh, Using the population data, we are taken a sample data. Okay, so we'll infer this sample data. Okay, okay, using this sample data only, we'll infer the population data. Let's say for example a company is creating a drug for the cancer. Okay, so the drug, is the drug works or not, so he needs they need to test. Okay, so what they will do, will they'll take the 100 persons and they will test on the persons, the drug will test on the persons, and the result will come. Okay, so using the sample data that they taken 100 peoples, they check whether the drug will work for all people, all population data or not. Okay, so we are just inferring the population data using the sample data only. Okay, so the tests itself are applied using the sample data, and the result will come to the population data. Okay, inferential statistics are valuable when examination of each member of an entire population is not convenient or possible. For example, to measure the diameter of each nail that is manufactured in a mill, it's impractical. We know that. So what we'll do, we'll measure the diameter of the representative random sample of nails. Okay, so we'll not calculating the diameter for all nails manufactured in the mill. We are just taking the sample nails and calculating the diameter. Okay, we can use the information from the sample to make generalizations about the diameters of all nails. Okay, so using the sample nail, if the sample nails are correct diameter, then we can uh, understand like all the uh, all the nails are same diameters, so like that. Goal of inferential statistics is the mathematical and logic of how this generalization from sample to population can be made. This not, yeah. So in inferential statistics, we have different types of tests: correlation test, t-test, chi-square test, and logistic regression. Okay, so these all tests will test for the variables, how the variables are uh, like correlated each other. So like that, all these tests will be like that. So inferential statistics can be used to prove or disapprove theories, determine association between the variables, this point here. So we'll calculate, we can know the association between the variables using this test also, and determine if findings are significant and whether or not. So that means if let's say we are creating a model, machine learning model, we are predicting some values. Okay, so we have two values, one is the actual value and one is the another one is the predicted value. So if you want to know the significance of these two values and the prediction and the actual, at that time we use the inferential statistics. Okay, or particularly we can say chi-square test. Okay, so if you want to know the significance of this value, we can use the chi-square. So let us slides we will see that chi-square test. Okay, significant and whether or not we can generalize from our sample to the entire population. So the test will tell you the generalization of the sample to the population. Okay, so types of statistics, we know that descriptive statistics, what we have done, we have done frequencies and basic of measurements. So all these descriptive statistics, we are just done how many and how much. So how many values are there, how much is that, and what is the mean, central tendency. These all measurements we done in the descriptive statistics. But in the inferential statistics, we are testing the hypothesis testing, using the correlation, confidence interval, significance testing, prediction, all this done in the inferential statistics. So it says like proving or disapproving the theories, association between the phenomena if a sample relates to the larger population. Okay, so and descriptive statistics and inferential statistics the same, just we are telling here. Descriptive statistics organize the data, summarize the data, simplifies and present the data. So this is the describing the data. So all these steps are just describing the data. And in inferential statistics, generalize from sample to population, hypothesis testing, relationships among the variables. That is, or we can say making predictions. Okay, all these slides are the same one, I know. Okay, so just ignore this slide. We know that. Okay, so now we have type of data and analysis. So we know that we have different type of data types. So for the different types of datas, we have different types of tests. Okay, so for the categorical and nominal type of data, we have correlation okay, so sorry, I think that would be, okay, I didn't see this. Okay, analysis of continuous data, only the correlation teachers and teachers. Okay, so I just uh, moved it here. So these two are categorical data, and these two tests are for continuous data. Okay, not this one. I will just, so this is not the categorical nominal data, and uh, this is for continuous. This is for continuous, and this is for categorical data. Okay, this is for categorical data. And here correlation t-tests and t-tests are used to compare the what continuous data. Okay, so if you have let's say you have two variables, that is continuous data. If you want to compare these two variables, then we use the correlation between the two variables, no, so that are continuous one. But here in the chi-square and the logistic regression, that would be a categorical type of data. Okay, so now we'll see one by one. Before that, we need to know the what is hypothesis testing now. So slide is not moving. Okay, so the image will explain you what we are trying to do. We are just draw inferences about the larger group using the sample data. Okay, we are taken the sample data, a good sample data. Okay, a good sample data only represent the population data. So if you are testing the good sample data, then only we can generalize it to population. Okay, okay, someone says, can you give example of our continuous and categorical data? So the continuous data will be your age, weight, height, or we can say the continuous data are numerical one, and the categorical data are categorical. So sorry, uh, characters. Okay, in the categorical data will come characters. Okay, or we can say the classes. Okay, classes will come in the categorical data. To explain, for example, here in the data set, if you see here age, far, these are continuous data. And here passenger class survived, because it is has only two classes, 0 and 1. This would be categorical data. And here also the p class, passenger class, we have 1, 2, 3. This also a categorical type of data. And this sex, we have male and female. So these two are the categorical data. Okay, okay, okay. For the uh, inferential statistics, for the testing, we need to know the probability, because based on this probability only we'll decide whether we can generalize it to population data or not. Okay, so the result of this test will come like in the probability way only. Okay, so we need to know the probability. What is probability? So if you're uh, in short, we can say, like, if you are tossing a coin, what is the probable chance of getting a head or chance of getting a tail? That is the probability. Okay, so in the chance of getting head means that would be 0.5, and chance of getting tail will be 0.5. So the 0.5 value is na, that is the probability. Okay, numerical indication of how likely it is that a given event will occur. So for example, if today will rain or a sunny day, so it will give you the probability. Okay, and statistical probability, the odds that what we observed in the sample did not occur because of error. uh, what's the probability that my results are not just due to the chance? And in other words, the probability associated with a statistics is the level of confidence we have that the sample group that we measured actually represent the total population. So in the probability, the test will give you the probability value. So this probability value decides whether the sample group that we measured actually represent the total population or not. Okay, okay. So the chain of reasoning for inferential statistics, what we are doing, we are just selecting a sample data and measuring the data, and then this will give you our example, or else we can say the testing the sample data, and this test will give you the probability. Using this probability value only, we'll say like the sample is inferring the population or not, like, okay, or our inferences are valid. Best we can do is to calculate the probability about inferences. Okay, so to generalize the sample to population, we need to know the probability value. Okay, based on the probability value only we'll decide. Okay, and, and hypothesis testing. So we'll see the hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is a testable prediction about a real world phenomena. Okay, let's say I'm going to test whether my data set is uh, differing from the mean or not. So that would be a hypothesis. Okay, so differing from the mean is the hypothesis. Okay, in this hypothesis, two results will come: null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So null hypothesis means we accept the hypothesis. Okay, alternative hypothesis means we reject the hypothesis. Means if you get the null hypothesis, that means the data set are differing from the mean. If you get the alternative hypothesis, the sample mean is not the same as the population. Here I think I have explained here. Okay, experimental hypothesis, a starting point that will accept or rejected, be examining the evidence that supports or contradicts it. Okay, so null hypothesis means the sample mean is the same as the population mean. Any difference are due to the chances. Okay, so that means the mean is not differing. In alternative hypothesis, uh, the sample mean is not the same as the population mean, so the mean is differing. That would be alternative hypothesis. So for example, here it's shown the mean difference. If the mean is not the same, that will be alternative hypothesis. If the mean is same, that would be null hypothesis. We accept the hypothesis. No. Okay. Hypothesis, a statement about what findings are expected. Null hypothesis, the two groups will not differ. And an alternative hypothesis, the group A will do better than group B, or uh, the group A and B will not perform the same. Okay, so inferential study. Okay, so uses sample data to evaluate the credibility of a hypothesis about a population. So null hypothesis means not any, no difference between the means of the two groups. Okay, say mu1 and mu2 are the two groups. So if the mean of these two groups are not differing from each other, then that would be null hypothesis. If that is differing, that would be alternative hypothesis. Okay, predicts that there are differences between the groups. Okay, if that is the differences between groups, that would be alternative hypothesis. And in a hypothesis also we'll get some error, we know that, because we are trying to uh, someone says two groups means two samples. Yeah, not two samples, we can say two variables, or we can say two variables. Okay, wait, think. Okay, here, uh, okay, this one I think. uh, so possible outcomes in hypothesis testing. So if you are testing the mean difference, we'll get a result. Using the result, we'll draw this matrix. So observe this, because it uses later on machine learning also the same concept here. Here you have four values: null is true, null is false, and accept and reject. Okay, so these two are correct prediction. Why is these two are correct prediction? Means uh, our hypothesis is says that is true, that means there is no difference, and we are accepting the value, that means upsetting the hypothesis testing, that would be a correct one. So null is true and we are accepting the null hypothesis, means that is the correct prediction, so correct decision. Okay, let's say the null hypothesis is true, but some ways we are rejecting the null hypothesis, somehow we are rejected the null hypothesis, that would be a error here. You see, null is true, but we are still we are rejecting the null hypothesis, that would be error. Okay, that is not a correct decision. Okay, and here also the error was because null is false, so that would be a wrong one, but we are accepting the wrong one. So null is false, we are accepting the uh, alternative hypothesis, that would be a error. So these two are the error, these two are correct decisions. So for these two errors we have the name type 1 error and type 2 error. So type 1 error says rejecting a true hypothesis. Okay, rejecting a true hypothesis, and type 2 error says accepting a false hypothesis. Okay, these two are uh, not the correct decisions to make. So that's the type 1 and type 2 error. Okay, so the type 1 error is called alpha. Okay, so the probability of making a type 1 error depends on the criterion you use to accept or reject the null hypothesis. So that means the significant level. So the significance level determines to accept or reject the null hypothesis. So here usually we use the 0.05. So 5 chance in 100, that's the difference observed was really due to the sampling error, 5% error. If uh, that is smaller you make alpha, the less likely you are to commit error. It says the significance level we'll use to accept or reject the null hypothesis. No, if you have a smaller alpha value, then the less likely you are committing the error. Okay, so the 0.05 means 5 chance in 100 that the difference observed was really due to the sampling error. So 5% of the time a type 1 error will occur. Okay, that's the uh, a significance level we use. Okay, so alpha difference observed is really just sampling error, the probability of the type 1 error. We just decrease the significant level, it will be very small, 0.05. Okay, and for the type 2 error we have its name as beta. Okay, beta is the type 2 error, occurs when we fail to reject the null when we should have. So we should reject the null hypothesis, but we are accepting the false hypothesis. That's due to the difference observed is real, fail to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, and in the statistical analysis we know that we have a significant level that is called p value here. Okay, if that is greater than the significant level, the p value, we accept the null hypothesis. Greater than greater than the 0.05, we accept the null hypothesis, otherwise we reject the null hypothesis if that is less than the 0.05. Okay, okay, and then we have now we got the understand of hypothesis testing. Now we are going to test. So the one of the first test will be t test. So that for t test the calculation will be t equal to mean minus comparison value divided by standard error. The standard error will calculate standard deviation divided by square root of n. So don't worry about this calculation. We have the library, SciPy. In the SciPy we have all the functions for the test, statistical analysis. So we don't want to write all the codes. We just use the sci-fi module. From sci-fi import the stats. Okay, so in this stats library we have the function. Okay, so in the test we can test two things. One is different from the values or different from the means, or else we can say like one variable differing from the value, let's say 0. If that is differing from the 0, the variable is differing from the 0 or not, so that would be one variable. If you have two variables, so you can have this type of this function test int. So this function will help you to compare the two variables. Okay, it will check whether these two variables mean are different or not. Okay, so I just shown you this main value of this age and far. As you observe this, the age, the mean of the age is 29, the far of mean of the far is 32. So as observed you can see there is no like uh, a large difference from the mean. Okay, it is very near to the values. These two means are near, so that's why it is giving you this value 0.19. Here I am testing the uh, testing the two variables. That time it is giving me significant level 0.19. Okay, so first we'll see the one sample. T-test one sample will help you to uh, differ, sorry, using this one variable we can differ this value, or else we can say if you want to measure the mean difference. Okay, so you will put mean here, like the mean of the age. You will put mean of the age here. So this type of t-test one sample will tell you how this variable is differing from this value. Okay, we know that we are let's say our hypothesis is differing from the mean or not. Okay, so we are given the mean value and the variable age. Now it is giving me them some values, the p value. Okay, this give you two values, one is stats and the p value. So only we want the p value to reject or accept the hypothesis. Okay, so using this condition we will use. Okay, if that is greater than the 0.05 value means we accept the hypothesis. Okay, means are equal, we can say equal to 0 because I just put the 0 there before. That's why it is means are equal. Mean is equal to 0 because I have put mean, sorry, 0 here. If I put 0 here, it will tell you whether uh, our data points are equal to 0 or not. Okay, so here it is mean is not equal to 0, that means all the values is are differing from the mean. So our hypothesis says your data sets in the variable are differing from the 0 value. Okay, so that's what the condition is. If the p is greater than 0.05 significant level, we know that we will accept the hypothesis. Accept the hypothesis means we accept mean is equal to 0. Okay, and if that is uh, sorry, less than the 0.05, we reject the hypothesis, means is not equal to 0. Okay, this was about the hypothesis testing will look like. And if you want to test the two variables, data age and data far, okay, we'll use a different function, t-test ind. Okay, this test will give you the p-value, of course we know that. Okay, and we are putting a condition. If the p is greater than 0.05, we know that we accept the hypothesis. So accept the hypothesis means the means of these two variables are equal. Okay, so here in observing itself we know that the two means of these variables are near, okay, near to them. Okay, so the 29 and 32, it is less near to the values, so we know that the means are equal. So the same thing, our test t test is telling us the means are equal. Okay, so this is the t test, and we'll move on to the next test. Next is correlation. So the correlation and the t test and the correlation, we know that we use for continuous type of data. So here I am using only the continuous type of data. Age and far are continuous data, we know that, and I'm just using these two variables only. Okay, because the t-test and correlations are analysis of continuous type of data. Okay, so now we move on to the correlation test. In the correlation test, what we'll do, we'll compare the variables and find relationship between the two continuous variables. Okay, when to use it, when you want to know about the association or relationship between the two continuous variables. Okay, and what does it tell you? If a linear relationship exists between the two variables, and how strong that relationship is. Okay, how strong the two variables are associated. So the correlation, the result will come -1 to +1. Okay, so -1 means negative correlation, +1 means positive correlation. Okay, so we'll see the next okay, one point I just missed. The correlation coefficient, to calculate, we are using the Pearson correlation coefficient equation to calculate the correlation between the two variables. Okay, so the correlation is like this. So this is the positive correlation. That means these two variables are changing together. If you change one unit of the x variable, the same the y variable also increases one unit. So that means there is a linear relationship between the two variables. So if that is linear relationship between them, the result will be 1. Okay, the perfect correlation 1. Here you see the strong positive correlation. The correlation is 0 0.8. This is 0 because it just randomly spreaded, so the 0 correlation. And we can also have negative correlation as well. So negative correlation is like this. Okay, and moderate negative correlation, strong correlation, and outliers. So outliers also affecting the correlation, so you know that. Okay, it says 0 to 0.25, little or no relationship. 0.25 to 0.5, fair degree of relationship. And 0.5 to 0.75, moderate degree of relationship. 0.75 to 1, strong relationship. 1 if you get, that is perfect correlation. Okay, and how do you interpret it? If R is positive, high values of one variable are associated with high values of other variable. Both go in same direction. Okay. If the two variables x and y are going to the same direction, that means if x is increasing, y also increasing. Okay, that is positive correlation. The negative correlation will be if the y is increasing, sorry, the x is increasing and y is decreasing on the different opposite directions, that would be negative correlation. Okay, correlation of 0 indicates no relationship, no linear relationship. Okay, then how do you report it? Diastolic blood pressure was positively correlated with age. The example is shown here, diastolic blood pressure. And for our, we have a different type of example here. So we are just correlate between all the variables in the data set: passenger ID, survived, passenger class, age, all the variables. So to calculate the correlation, very simple, using the pandas data frame. You just put data.core, CORR. It will give you the correlation matrix. Using this correlation matrix, if you visualize here as a heat map, okay, as a heat map, SNS dot heat map, easily we can understand, like let's say the survived is the uh, our y variable, let's say, okay, y variable, and we are going to compare this variable to other variables, the passenger id, passenger class, age, and the sibling xb. So we are going to compare the survived with other variables. So to do that, in the graph you can easily understand. So take the survived variable where it is. So let's say here, or vertically or horizontally, no problem, everything will be same. Okay, let's say this one survived class. So this line, in this line, what we'll do, we'll compare the every variables, okay, survived and the passenger id. So that is very very less correlated between the survived and the passenger id, because it is getting minus 0.005. So there is no relation, you can say, to the passenger id. Okay, and the survived and survived, you cannot take this value, because survived and comparing with the survived value will be the same one, you know that. And comparing the survived and the passenger class, we are getting minus 0.34. That means we have some correlation in negatively 0.34 negative correlation we have. And for age column, there is no relation, because 0.07 there is no correlation. And the sibling sb also no correlation, and the parch also has no correlation. But fair has some correlation. Fair has some correlation on the positively 0.26 it is giving now. So we have correlation on positively. So what is the use of this correlation? So the use of this correlation we use in the machine learning also, to select the variables. That means we have let's say six variables here. So using these six variables, I want to pick, let's say, two variables, okay, that are correlated to the y variable. Y variable, what is y variable here? The survival class is the y variable here. So I will pick two columns that are more correlated to the this y variable survived class. So I will pick this class p class, because it is negatively correlated 0.34, and I will pick this one 0.26. Okay, it is positively correlated. So I will pick these two columns, p passenger class and pair class, pair variable. Okay, so using these two columns only I will train the model. Okay, instead of using this all the columns, we are using these two columns only, because all these variables no has no relation between the y variable. Then why we are going to use? Okay, so that's the intention here. Okay, so that's the use of the correlation. And correlation and t-test, we know for the continuous variable type of variables. Now we will test for the categorical type of variables. For test the categorical type of variables, we have the chi-square test. So chi-square test will help you to find the significance. I already tell you significant level of what, the actual and the expected. Okay, that's the definition of this chi-square. So it just give you the significance of the actual and the expected. Okay, chi-square is a statistical test commonly used to compare observed data with the data we would expect to obtain according to the specific hypothesis. Chi-square test is one of the important non-parametric tests that is used to compare more than two variables for randomly selected data. The expected frequencies are calculated based on the conditions of null hypothesis. The rejection of null hypothesis is based on the difference of actual value and the expected value. Okay, we'll reject the null hypothesis if there is a difference between the actual and the expected value. Okay, and test for different purpose. Chi-square test, testing for goodness of fit. So this is the point I want to mention. Goodness of fit means, let's say we are creating a model, machine learning model, it fits onto the data. So how the model is, how goodness the model is fitted into the data, we'll we'll test using the chi-square. Okay, and chi-square, when to use it, when you want to know if there is an association between two categorical variables. Okay, let's say smoking, yes or no, and lung cancer, yes or no. So if you smoke, how many persons are smoking and got lung cancer? So like that. Okay, obesity and diabetes. What does a chi-square test tell you? If the observed frequencies of occurrence in each group are significantly different from expected frequency. Okay, how differing from the expected values, how the actual value is differing from the expected values. That's the result the chi-square will give you. What do the result will look like? Chi-square test statistics. It denotes by the x squared. Okay, x squared like this. How do you interpret it? Usually, the higher the chi-square statistic, the greater the likelihood the finding is significant. So significant means it are equal. The if you have greater the value, the findings are equal. But you must look at the corresponding p-value to determine the significance. So it is very simple. Chi-square. Uh, Again, the sci-fi module has the chi-square statistics test. So chi-square contingency using this function. So let's say this is our table of actual value. Let's say, so for example, I'm given here. So using this function, you can calculate the p-value, stat, and degree of freedom and expected value. Okay. So now this is the expected value based on some hypothesis. So how this expected value is differing from our actual value. So this is what the uh, like our chi-square test will give you the p-value. Okay, if that p-value is less than or equal to the alpha, variables are associated, or else variables are not associated with them. So here we are getting the significance of 0.05 variables are associated. Okay, that's it. This is the chi-square test. uh, I think the last one we have the logistic regression, the last one. So the logistic regression also used for the categorical type of variables. When you have your outcome as a categorical type of variable, then we use the logistic regression. What it will tell you, when you want to measure the strength and the direction of the association between two variables. Okay, where the dependent or outcome variables. Okay, the outcome variable is categorical. So if you want to uh, uh, like predict the association between the variables, but the y variable, you know, the y variable is categorical one. Okay, then we use the logistic regression. So in the logistic regression we have detailed explanation on the machine learning video. So we'll predict using the logistic regression also. Okay, when you want to predict the likelihood of an outcome while controlling for confounders. Okay, examine the relationship between the health behavior, smoking, exercise, low fat diet, and arthritis. Predict the probability of stroke in relation to gender while controlling for age and hypertension. And, and now in our example also the same thing here, because the survived class is the categorical one. Okay, survived class is the categorical one. If you want to compare this categorical data with the numerical data like age, far, or like that, so then we use the logistic regression. So what does it tell you? The odds of an event occurring, the probability of the outcome event occurring divided by the probability of it not occurring. Okay, I think that's it. The summarization of all the tests: correlation, two continuous variables, t-test, means from a continuous variable, and chi-square, two categorical variables we have. In the logistic regression, we have a dichotomous variable as the outcome. Dichotomous means more than two category. Sorry, more than two. Sorry, I think dichotomous means 0 and 1. Yeah, yeah. Two classes. When you have two classes only, the logistic regression will work. Dichotomous variable as the outcome. Okay. Okay. That's it, I think. So we'll end up with this session. Any doubts you have, you can ask now. Any doubts? Okay, where someone says, where can I get these notes? You mean these codes? It is on the video, no? On the YouTube channel, we will upload this video. You can watch the video and you can type this code. And also, the data set also I have shown you where to get. Yesterday, I think using the Kaggle, no? Kaggle website, you can get the data set. And this environment, like the collaboratory, it is available for you also, because if you have a Google account, go to the drive and then you can create the collaboratory. So I already yesterday I already uh, okay, here if you go new and more, you will get the Google collaboratory. Okay, here if you click, you will get like this, the notebook will open. So then connect to the environment and start typing the coding. Okay. So we are bigdatahands-on.com. Our website is bigdatahands-on.com, and the videos which we are taking, it will be uploaded on the YouTube channel bigdatahands-on.com. If you want to see in our website, go to the meetup uploads and meetup videos. I think sometimes it is not coming. Okay, no problem. Our website is bigdatahands-on.com. If you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will get our latest updates. Here is our YouTube channel, bigdatahands-on.com. Okay, if you subscribe to our channel, you will get all the videos up to date. Okay, so we'll see tomorrow. Thank you.